Hello?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh, no way. Is this Ghostface? Hey, man. I've actually been thinking about this a lot. I gotta say, my favorite scary movie is Lost Boys.
Oh, really? That's mine too.
Really? Okay. On the count of three, let's say our favorite character, alright? 1, 2, 3. Sexy Sax Man!
Oh, no way.
That's amazing. Alright, that's cool. So, like, since we're kind of Lost Boys, like, you're not gonna try to murder me, are you?
Well, it's kind of my thing, I mean.
Alright, fair enough. Okay. Can you give me a head start at least?
Best I can do is 10 steamboats.
Alright, start counting now. Welcome to another episode of Good Times and Bad Movies. I'm Paul Ireland. Joining me as always is my lovely co-host, Tim.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Morrison. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you, Tim. Doing well. It's been a busy week, but I'm really excited because today we are talking about 1997's Scream 2 from Miramax and Dimension Films. I'm sure a lot of people have seen the Scream franchise, or at least you know about the Scream franchise. And I'm sure a lot of you are going, dude, what are you saying? Like this, I like Scream. I really enjoy the first movie. I think it's safe to say Tim and I both really actually enjoy the first movie. Seen all of the movies, seen the TV shows. I think the franchise itself, it's entertaining. But I think the movies, it's definitely a case of diminishing returns as we go through the sequels here. But this number 2, I think we should get this out in the open here. I really don't think it's the worst entry in the Scream franchise at all. But I think this is one of the more watchable sequels of the Scream franchise.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about this later. Yeah, never mind. I agree with you. Let's leave it at that. I agree with you. This isn't one of the worst ones. No,
we don't have to get too in depth with that. But again, this is sort of like a Friday the 13th kind of thing where it's like, Jason Takes Manhattan is not the worst installment in the franchise, but man, I don't want to watch Jason X. So, and I don't know what Tim's thoughts are on the sequels. We don't have to go into that, but I don't want to watch number 3. I don't want to watch number 4. It's just no, thank you. We're good. We're good.
Yeah, I don't want to see number 3. I think that number 3 is the worst one, and I just don't think that would be very enjoyable to go over. So, yeah, I would definitely choose Scream 2.
Yeah, we're getting ready. It's it's October here. We're getting ready to wear sweaters. It's pumpkin spice time and watch some scary movies. So what better way to kick it all off than with Scream 2? A nice, fun teen horror movie.
One of the reasons I was okay with going with this one is because this movie came out like barely a year after the first one. Like this movie was written and shoved out the door like as quickly as possible.
There's a little bit of backstory there because I am interested in Kevin Williamson's movies. Honestly, I'm a big fan of I Know What You Did Last Summer. Love that movie. Thought it was really fun. It's fantastic. And he also wrote this movie as well and a couple other ones that I enjoy. But he initially, when he wrote this movie Scream, he kind of pitched it to a bunch of studios that he could sell this as a franchise. So there was a number 2. He had the basic outline of a structure for a sequel for number 2. So there was something there. And as soon as they realized that once this came out and this was kind of starting to become a big hit in the theaters, they were like, let's go, let's get the cast together. And they cranked out another movie. And there was production issues. There was a bit of a leak script, which he kind of said too, that there was some fake leak script out there, but maybe that's, I don't know if that's true or not. But so there was a lot of fanfare. There was a lot of hullabaloo about this movie in the 90s, I gotta say. So they definitely did get it right out there very quickly, which is crazy for 1997. But there was some sort of long vision, I guess, with this. If you haven't seen Scream 2, maybe we'll give you a bit of a synopsis, but in order to do that, maybe we need to explain a little bit of Scream 1. The original Scream basically revolves around a girl named Sidney Prescott, and she's stalked by a mysterious killer in a ghost face mask. And this killer has an affinity for calling her on the phone and basically talking about horror movies and asking questions about horror movies and weird stuff like that, and actually mimicking scenes from horror movies, horror movie plot lines. And the movie itself is very self-aware about the horror genre. We should also take that into consideration, or, that should be into consideration here when we talk about this movie. We know that it's a self-aware movie, folks. But Sydney is stalked by this mysterious Ghostface Killer. And at the end of the movie, we find out that this guy who's going around and murdering all the students in her high school is actually two people. It's her boyfriend, this guy Billy Loomis, and his friend Stu Mocker. And basically, they're doing it for two reasons. One is apparently just for the lulz. They just want to kill people because they're crazy. And the second reason is Billy blames Sydney's mother for ruining her family's marriage, her mother and father's marriage. So he just snapped, and he decided to go around and kill her mother and a couple other people too in the movie. And so that brings us up to number 2. So we'll give you a quick synopsis of number 2, and we can just get right into this. Scream 2. While away at college, Sydney Prescott thought she'd finally put the terror behind her until a copycat killer begins acting out a real-life sequel in which no one is safe or beyond suspicion.
Yeah, that's right. She barely got 4 seasons away from the terror and thought it was all behind her.
That's right. I mean, yeah, and we're going to find out, too, in this movie. Apparently, she's in a college in Ohio. I didn't realize that either.
I don't know where the original one took place.
It's in Woodsboro, and apparently that's supposed to be it's a fictional town in California somewhere. So she's gone quite the distance away now.
Oh, I would, too.
Yeah. With that being said, though, let's just jump right into this. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, let's go. Let's give this a stab.
It's a Scream, baby.
Okay, so this movie starts outside of a movie theater, and we see a couple here named Maureen and Phil, and they are going to see a sneak preview movie viewing of a new movie called Stab, which is based on the murders that happened in the previous Scream movie, based on a book by Gale Weathers. She's one of these survivors of the first one.
Yeah, that's right. She's managed to like pump out a tell-all story in God knows how long, and they've made a movie. It seems like I think this is about 2 years later. So that's pretty quick. That's a pretty quick turnaround, you know.
It does seem a little bit early to make a movie based on a what would be considered a complete tragedy, right? You know, like a shooting or something that actually really happened, and making a movie about it. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but also, too, we're going to see that as part of Gale's character, right? She is that cynical sort of media voice you're going to see in this movie that just is there to capitalize on the murder and mayhem.
So anyways, back to our couple here. We've got Jada Pinkett Smith. She's the one playing Maureen, and she is with her boyfriend. It's not Will Smith.
No, and he's not slapping anybody.
Nope.
You know what, though? She could have used it. She could have used that level of protection in this scene. We're going to find out. Spoiler.
Yeah, that's right. So they are going to this movie. She's pretty reluctant about it. She doesn't seem to like scary movies at all. And this movie, this theater is like the energy is so high. Like the atmosphere here is absurd.
Can I ask you a question? Have you ever walked into a movie theater before that has been this crazy?
Not even close. The closest I've been to see a wrestling pay-per-view at a theater, and people do stand up and cheer a little bit. But I've never, and all the lights are on too. Like I've never been to a theater that was like this ever for any movie.
Maybe we should paint a picture too, because we should let you know what this theater actually looks like and what's going on inside the theater, folks. Like what happens is as they're going inside the theater, Maureen and Phil are given these costumes. Apparently the studio is handing out promotional costumes for everybody that's going there tonight. And you get a ghost face mask and the whole cape and everything, and a glow-in-the-dark knife, okay? Which is also crazy and pretty morbid. You would think about, like, if some giant murder happened, let's say if like it was like a Ted Bundy murder or like a Jeffrey Dahmer murder.
Just a mass killing or something, yeah.
Yeah, and everyone was giving it like pocket squares and little button-down shirts and like meat cleavers for you. You'd be like, what are you doing here, guys? Like this is, I mean, and again, folks, we know this is a movie. I'm only going to say this one time. Like we get it. We know self-aware. So don't come out and be like, yeah, we know this stupid guys. Like we get it. We know, okay, folks. We know it's self-aware. We understand we're going to rip on it a little bit. Let's have some fun. It's Halloween. But still, you would think though, it's a little dark, right?
It's a little insensitive.
Yeah. I think that's a little wild, right? But and people are running around now in full costume. People are throwing popcorn everywhere and throwing and just stuff is going everywhere. And people run around fake stabbing each other in this place. And people are screaming and hooting and hollering. It is wild.
And people are cheering like they're actually at like a sports show or something. Like this is a massive celebration.
This is insane that everybody is that excited to watch a movie about people that got murdered 2 years ago. And they're like, I went to school with that person. That's crazy.
I guess to paint this picture, we are now watching the movie Stab. And it is exactly what happened in the first movie. So essentially, you're sitting watching the intro to Scream 1 while you're watching Scream 2. And it actually goes on for a lot longer than I remembered. But like, I find that strange of how far they went with it, and like so completely recast and had someone that looked like Drew Barrymore and stuff. So when he used the line in the Stab movie, he says, "What's your favorite scary movie?" The whole theater erupts in celebration again. People are chanting like, "Woo, this is what we want to hear," or something. I guess I don't know. And Jada Pinkett Smith decides that she needs to get some popcorn or something, so she goes out to the vendor, and then as she's going back in, her boyfriend scares the crap out of her because he just kind of jumps out of a hallway and he's wearing the Ghostface Killah mask. Ghostface Killah. It's not. That's a rapper, isn't it? Ghostface Killah. Isn't that
Ghostface Killah. You're right. That is a rapper. That's right. Wu-Tang Clan.
That's right. Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to mess with.
The RZA, the Jizza, You God, Inspector Deck, Ghostface Killah.
Inspector Deck. That's a really great. That's a great name.
Sorry. Yeah.
So anyway, she goes. So Jada Pinkett Smith, she gets her popcorn and stuff, and as she's going back in, her boyfriend scares the crap out of her. He's wearing a Ghostface Killah mask. The Ghostface mask.
Ghostface. You can just say the Ghostface mask. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say the Ghostface mask because I don't want to.
The Scream mask.
Yeah, I don't want to accuse Ghostface Killah of being a killer. God, this is ridiculous. Okay, so he scares Jada. He's wearing the Ghostface mask, and she decides to go back into the theater, and he's going to go to the washroom. So he goes into the washroom, and as he walks in, there's two people at urinals, with Ghostface mask on. They turn around, look at him, and just continue to piss. And then he goes into the stall, and he like hears a noise or something. Does it sound like light talking or something?
Yeah, it's a person talking, and they're saying something like, I did that, mommy. It's okay. Like I tried, mommy. I'm listening. I will listen, mommy. Something like that. Yeah, it's something about someone talking to their mommy. It's very low whispering stuff about their mommy.
Well, he gets stabbed. It's a knife that comes through for this guy, and he's dead. So this Ghostface killer here wipes off the knife and takes the guy's jacket or something, I think, and walks back into the theater and sits down beside Jada. And she doesn't realize it's not him because this person has a mask on. And as the movie is like reaching, I guess, like a climactic point in the part where Drew Barrymore would die, she dies, and the place erupts again in celebration and cheers. And amongst all that, this killer just starts stabbing Jada to death. And she like is like screaming for help, but no one's helping her because everybody is just like fake stabbing each other like constantly and cheering about it and stuff. So they all just think it's part of the show until she gets to the very front of the stage and she's like in front of the movie and then just like collapses in front of everybody.
Do you think the killer paid for all these costumes so he could slip in there? Do you know, or did he know that the studio's going to do this and he's like, I'm going to do it on this night? Like, I feel like it's kind of like a weird thing that he could have jigsawed. Yeah,
like supplied all these glowing knives, like these toy knives and stuff, and all these costumes just to like flood the. He could just like hide in. Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll see that the killer does go through a lot of hoops here in this one. So as soon as that theater scene is over, we see the title. It's Scream 2. So we're at college now, and Sidney Prescott, it's a year later after that whole tragedy, Sidney Prescott is waking up to a prank phone call, and it seems as though there's been a lot of them lately because of this movie that is just premiered. And she uses caller ID now, and I guess that's supposed to help keep her a little bit more safe from, prank callers and potential killers and whatnot. However, when she sees the news, she's a little startled and decides that she needs to go and find Randy. And Randy is one of the survivors from the first movie. He's like the geek, the movie geek, and kind of gives them tips on how to survive a horror movie and that kind of stuff, right? And so fittingly, in this movie, he is in movie school. Like, it doesn't really say what he is. I guess he's like...
Film theory?
Yeah, film theory. I'm not really sure. So in his class is a guy from Dawson's Creek, Timothy Oliphant. Is that how you pronounce his name? I think he's best known for his role on Justified as the lead role on the show Justified, where he's like the sheriff. And Sarah Michelle Gellar is also there.
That's right, SMG.
Yeah, so this is her second appearance on our podcast, I believe. A very small one from She's All That. This little class session here is kind of just them arguing about who is the better movie geek, and they're arguing about like which sequels are better. Are there any? They're arguing about whether or not there are any sequels that surpassed the original.
Well, they are also kind of that is a small tangent, but they are kind of the bigger topic is the murders that have just taken place the night before here. They're all kind of talking about this now, and what has potentially inspired this person to come back and murder people in the style of Billy Loomis and Stu Macher, and obviously Randy's there and he's survived this before, so he's not a big fan of this.
So this scene, we're just introduced to our new characters in the movie. Cece is Sarah Michelle Gellar, and Mikey, who is played by Timothy Elephant, something like that. His name's Mickey, not Mikey, by the way. Mickey.
Yeah, his name is Mickey, Mikey. You know what we're talking about. Elephant, tomato.
Potato, patata.
That's right.
After class, Randy walks out, and he is greeted by Sydney, who is kind of just informed him of the tragedy that happened at the theater nearby. And they're kind of wondering if it's connected. And we're also greeted by Sydney's new boyfriend. His name is Derek. And I guess he's like a freshman at the college. And he's like he's in some kind of like frat. And Sydney she has a friend, or a roommate named Hallie. Or Nellie?
Haley, something like that. Yeah, well,
I'm going to call her Nellie. So Nellie is trying to get Sydney to join a sorority group as well. Aba Zeta, something like that, or what's the name?
Yeah, it's a Delta Lambda Zeta, Tim. I know, I don't really know a lot about sororities. Never joined a sorority. Really don't understand the whole culture of that, but that's okay. But yeah, they're just a bunch of sorority girls, and they're played by Portia de Rossi and Rebecca Gayheart. There's a lot of famous people in these movies, man.
Quite a few people from Dawson's Creek. A lot. I think I realized this after watching when I was looking stuff up, that Kevin Williamson wrote and directed Dawson's Creek. So
there's a lot of stuff going on here at the school. It looks like for some reason, I guess everybody, all the news stations and stuff have showed up to hear the police chief speak. It seems like he's going to have like a little press conference regarding the murder, but it looks like they're at the college where Sydney is at. So why did they all show up to the college Sydney's at to make an announcement? That part really kind of confused me. But that's kind of what's going on here. But we're going to run into a lady here whose name is Debbie Salt. And Debbie Salt she is a reporter for the Telegraph. And she runs into Gale here. Gale is kind of here in town, going to report on the murders. And Debbie is just, all you really need to know about her right now, I guess, is she's really, really in Gale's ear. And she really is a big fan of Gale Weathers.
Yeah, she seems like bewildered to be able to like hang out with her and be in her presence. She's like, I can't even do an impression of her because she sounds a little bit foolish, but she seems like a fan.
Yeah, she is like really annoying in this movie.
Yeah, I like the name Debbie Salt. I think that's a funny name. I just want to play a clip to show you what Debbie Salt sounds like as a fan, because it's kind of funny.
I'm Debbie Salt. I took your seminar in Chicago last year. I was the one in the front row asking all the questions.
I thought you looked familiar.
She sounds like one of those people that you work with that's like really hyper on a Monday morning when you're just trying to like get your day going. She's like, oh yeah, all right, and you're like, you just need to like step back and give me like 10 minutes, dude. She's just like one of those people. She comes at you doing about 4,500 RPM. You're like, you just what's going on here?
Yeah, chill out.
Yeah, like seriously, take friggin' Xanax, bro.
So no sooner we got Dewey, played by David Arquette again, and he shows up. So the whole gang is back. They're back together.
Yeah, that's right. Dewey just comes out of nowhere, just standing there like he's got no clue, like he was born yesterday. That's like already you feel bad for Dewey because he got stabbed and he had a nerve severed in his back or whatever last time. But like just David Arquette nails playing awkward to a T in this movie.
Yeah. I like the character of Dewey. And yeah, he's still feigning his injuries from the previous year.
What do you mean feigning? You think he's faking this injury?
I know.
Tim?
I realized after I said use that word. That's not the right word.
Okay. No, okay. Oh, I mean, like the character. I mean, like the actor David Arquette is. I mean, obviously faking it, but
Yeah. David Arquette is feigning his injury as a character from the previous year.
Could you imagine the psyops going on there if Dewey was actually doing that in this movie? Was actually just faking an injury, just pretend like he was like some lame duck, like not to use that in some, I don't know, whatever. But you know what I mean? Like if he was just like pretending he was just a harmless guy, he's like, oh, I can't do anything. I just got stabbed. Don't worry, guys. But he was like Rambo or something.
I don't think he's a police officer anymore. He's no longer Deputy Dewey.
Is he like a detective for this or something? He's a detective, I think. Don't they say that in this movie?
Maybe. And he doesn't seem to have his gun.
Yeah, but I thought they were like, he still works for Woodsboro or something, and he's just there because I think he just showed up because he was just like, hey, like I just came by because, you know, I heard what happened, blah, blah, blah.
Well, he's written like he's not a cop anymore. So Gale Weathers shows up here. So she must be keeping tabs on Sydney because she shows up like just kind of like in the middle as Sidney Prescott is walking across a field, like a park or something. Like Gale Weathers just like steps out from behind a tree with a camera and also with another person who his name is Cotton Weary. And he is the person that was falsely accused for the crime of Sidney Prescott's mother. She initially thought that Cotton Weary, this guy here, was the one who killed her mother, but it ended up being her boyfriend and stuff at the end of the movie. So anyways, we find out that Cotton Weary spent a good year or so in jail. And he's finally been exonerated because, you know, we found out who the killers were. And yeah, Gale Weathers here just decides to do like an impromptu interview with Sidney Prescott, like out of the blue, while these murders just happened like a night, like the day before. And so yeah, she just puts Sydney in this really awkward situation where to have a conversation with Cotton Weary, the guy that she falsely accused and was imprisoned. And she basically, a little bit of saucy talk goes on here, and Sydney's having none of it and just punches Gale Weathers in the face. And Cotton Weary is just like, what, you didn't tell me? You told me that she knew this was going to happen. So Gale Weathers like tricked both of these two. These two are just being tortured, right? It's just awful what they've gone through, and just like puts them in a very awkward situation. And rightfully so, she gets punched in the face for it.
Okay. I'm laughing at something right now because I am just watching this right now, Tim. I just noticed there's a bit of a comparison here, and I'm just going to preface this with, I understand if this was a real person in real life, this would be an unacceptable joke. However, this is a movie where Dewey is not crippled and whatever this stuff, so David Arquette's a normal person, but like his hand in this movie, the way his hand is and paralyzed in this movie right now, okay, that he's walking around in. If you ever remember Happy Gilmore, what Chubbs' hand looked like, that paper mache hand, that weird clutched up posture that it was in, that is what David Arquette's hand is in right now. It's frozen in that Chubb grip. And I can't just stop thinking about that right now. That's amazing.
Nerve damage, man. He's got nerve damage.
I guess so. It wasn't an alligator in this one.
Paul loves making fun of people with nerve damage.
No, I
Very
don't.
humorous thing for you.
No, it's not. Whatever. Stallone was an accident, and
this is just a coincidence.
this is fake. All right, so whatever. I'll be the bad guy. So Dewey runs in to Gale here, and obviously Gale and Dewey have a bit of a past. For those who don't know, in the first movie, Dewey and Gale had a bit of a relationship, and they also, it seems like, have had a bit of a romantic falling out now. And this book has come out now, and Dewey is offended by some of the stuff that's come out, and she's written about him in this book. And I just want to play a little clip here.
Page 41. Deputy Dewey oozed with inexperience.
Dewey, I never meant to imply
How do you know that my dim-witted inexperience isn't merely a subtle form of manipulation used to lower people's expectations, thereby enhancing my ability to effectively maneuver within any given situation? Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some oozing to do.
And that guy is going to stop a killer, folks. He's going to stop a serial killer.
You know what's funny too? That music, every time these two have a scene together, it kind of just reminds me of like something like a South Park show that they would do. Every time they have a scene together, it's the exact same music. Bow, 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 down, 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 down.
This kind of weird, lone, twangy Western guitar.
Yes, every single time they are on screen together, just about.
Yeah. I was actually thinking there, like, I enjoy that. I think I like that kind of weird, like, Gale Dewey theme. Yeah. It's their love theme. We're going to go to a party now, I guess, Tim.
Well, we know that there's a party going on, but we're really focusing on Sarah Michelle Gellar's character here. Her name is Cece, and she's expecting a call from her boyfriend, Ted.
It looks like Cece, a.k.a. Sarah Michelle Gellar, a.k.a. SMG, is staying home at her sorority frat house thing there. And she is at Omega Beta Zeta, I believe, is their sorority. This is going to get really confusing here, so I'll just call it their sorority frat house she's at here. And she's what they call you can't see this, folks, I'm doing air quotes, a sober sister. So it sounds like she just hangs out at home, and if someone's partying in this house here and they need a ride or something like that, they're sick, something happens, she can drive out and pick them up. And it sounds like there's a rotating sort of schedule. So it's SMG's night to hang out, eat some pizza, watch some movies, and wait and see if any drunk people call. And she thinks that maybe her boyfriend, Ted, is actually calling her right now.
So it ends up not being Ted. And in fact, it ends up being the killer of this movie. And I think he actually asked her, like, what her favorite scary movie is. And just making small talk. And then he kind of implies to her that he's watching her and that she better watch out. So she kind of like runs around, starts locking doors, and then gets a call from one of her other sorority sisters. And while she's on the phone, like she's on like the other line or something. And while she's on the phone with the sorority sister, you can see the killer in the Ghostface costume, like running around behind her a couple of times. Like there's no mystery as to where he is in the house. We know that he's like running from like closet to closet. And that, I don't know. I thought that was really weird because I've never seen that. Like even in the first movie, you didn't see the killer just like running, like shuffling around, like trying to hide from her and stuff, hide from the killer while he's on the phone at that. So I think, like, to me, that would also imply right away that there's probably two killers, I think. Just because you're talking to him on the phone, and then you can see the killer in the background behind her, not, both hands free, not talking on the phone, right?
He's sneaking around and, like, hiding behind little, like, sheets or whatever he's doing, hiding behind the drapes and stuff, or by that couch like a 6-year-old. And I wonder how that works. You would think too, right? Because if they are coordinating it, like how is there a second person? Like, or do they have a headset and they can talk to each other too? And he's like, all right, so I asked her what her favorite scary movie is. You better get behind the couch real quick.
Yeah, like why are they even going through all of this like why go through all of this stuff anyways? If you're intending on killing her, then like why are you like stalking her around the house, like playing hide and go seek kind of, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, cause especially it's not like I understand doing this to Sydney, right? Because you're trying to harass her and scare her and put her in a state of terror. But like, this is just some person that you're just going to kill who, like, I don't really know if I want to spoil anything, but like, you're just killing her for only one specific reason in this movie. So like, it's not really like a huge deal that you kill her. So why would you go to all the trouble of playing hide and go seek and then harassing them? Why not just walk in their room when they're sleeping or something and just stab them a couple times and that's it, you leave?
So anyways, he finally just reveals himself and he starts chasing her around the house. And this is one of the things I noticed when I was rewatching this movie today is like, this killer is like incredibly clumsy. Like he's like the most ungraceful like chaser you'd ever seen. He chases her down the stairs into a hallway. She turns around, throws a giant plant, hits him in the head. He falls on the floor. He's like diving at her. He like falls on the steps while he's chasing her up the steps. And she throws a bicycle down at him. He trips over that.
This is like Home Alone or something. Yeah, like what are you just hitting him with everything on every level you can? I'm pretty sure they actually just made fun of that joke in Scream as well too, or in Scary Movie as well too. Like they had like a piano and an old lady and like a wheelchair and a canoe and there was all kinds of stuff. Yeah, like, like good enough good for her because like I would be throwing anything I could at him too. But you're right, the amount of stuff that she hits him with on the way up to the top of the stairs, it is like Home Alone.
So he chases her to, I guess, like the top floor and throws her through like a balcony window door, and then picks her up, stabs her a few times, and tosses her off the balcony and Cece is dead.
That's it. You gotta say, like, in the first movie, Ghostface is pretty aggressive at some points. He definitely likes to play around with people too, but this kill was like, man, when he got going there, it was like, it is on and you're done. Once I stab you a couple of times, like, that's it. It's game over. But that also brings me to one of my other favorite clips in this movie now, because we're going to cut back to a party that seems like it may be potentially happening just across the street. We'll get that in a second. But we're back right now at the Delta Lambda Zeta house. And the sorority girls, Portia de Rossi and Rebecca Gayheart, they're talking with Sydney. Because again, she's like a sort of a quasi-celebrity, so they're really excited. They want her to join they want her to join the sorority and stuff. And they're kind of explaining to her that, the sorority, it's not just about people think it's just about sex and stuff like that, but it's not just about sex. They promote like safe sex kind of stuff. And you know what? I'm gonna leave it there because I'll just let them explain the rest of this.
Everyone thinks that sororities are just about blowjobs, but it's not true. We only promote safe, condom sex. See, we're about love, respect, and responsibility. A harmonica style is okay, right? Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Harmonica style.
I don't think I noticed. Like, I didn't really clue into that little thing, harmonica style.
Wow. That was very specific. She was almost like double checking, like that's okay, right? Like,
so they're really pushing hard on selling this sorority group to Sydney Prescott here, and she seems very disinterested. And they also like encouraging her to join because her boyfriend Derek is also part of a Delta fraternity, and according to her, she says we'd like to keep it in the family. Which I don't even understand why that would even matter to sorority groups, but whatever.
While this whole party goes on here and Sydney's talking to her boyfriend Derek, the sorority girls come in and they mention that there's something going on over at Omega Beta Zeta, and the cops are there and stuff now. So this is where I got confused because everybody now is pouring out of the sorority house, okay? And this seems like this is right across the street because like the kids are staring at cop cars and news vans and stuff now, and they're all kind of just like looking. That's what it at least seems like. They're right across the street from this sorority house. Okay, would you be agreeable to that, Tim, or no? Or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, or at least on the same street. Like the party's disbanded because they hear all of the commotion and stuff, like the police sirens and stuff. So it's nearby.
Okay. So then I think so this is where I'm at then too, right? If this is like across the street or potentially just down the road and there's like 200 people at that house, okay? And you're Sarah Michelle Gellar. You're in a house getting stalked by the Ghostface guy. He's making weird, creepy phone calls and sneaking around the house and scaring you, okay? Why did you just not run across the street to the party with all of the people?
Oh, well, that's the same as like, why do you always run upstairs? Why is it that the victims in horror movies always run upstairs instead of going out the front door?
Because she runs out the house at one point and just stands there and just like looks out the front door, and then she just was like, well, maybe I'll go back in. And then that's it. Like, you're scared, okay? Like, why are you going inside the house? My first thing would be I'm hanging up the phone and I'm running across the street, and then I'm calling campus security and being like, weird guy's calling my house. Can you just get them to show up here? And then I'll come back over when they show up.
Maybe she takes the sober sister thing very seriously and doesn't want to abandon her post for anything.
Personally, I think Buffy the Vampire Slayer was sniffing her farts too much and thought she could just handle this. She's like, I got this. I've killed a couple vampires before.
She did hit him in the head with a plant, and she did evade him pretty well, actually going upstairs until he caught up with her, right? Well, across the road again. So everybody pours out of this party here and goes across the street to go check and see what happened at the Abba Zeta Data house, whatever the hell it is.
The Abba Zaba house.
The Abba Zaba house. And Cece is laying there, and everyone's, you get the reporters, Gale Weathers is there, and Debbie Salt's there. They're all there to do their reporting. And meanwhile, it appears though that Sydney is the last one at the party. Like, she's the only person who didn't run out because, she's gone through this once already. She's just going to hang back, sit tight, and then the phone starts ringing. So she's like, I wonder if I should answer. This isn't my house. What are the chances it's for me, right? That's what I'd be thinking too. And I think, I probably wouldn't answer it. Maybe I would, I don't know. So I guess she is the only person in the house. Everybody is poured out. This party is over. And she decides that she's going to answer the phone. And the voice comes on, and it's scary Ghostface. And it says, "Hey, Sydney, it's show time." Kind of like Beetlejuice. It's show time. And and she's like, "Why don't you show your face, you coward?" And he goes, "I'm right here." And he's like behind her in costume. He just like appears there really quick.
This brings me to another question I had in this movie. Because the Ghostface voice that you hear in this movie, that "Hello, Sydney," or whatever it is, it's the same voice you hear from the first movie, which obviously is just a voice actor. And the guy's always been the voice, or whatever they call him.
Yeah, he does the same voice, does a voice for all the movies.
For sure. But you don't have a voice warper that makes you sound like Billy Loomis. And how do you know what Billy Loomis sounded like? How do you know what that voice was? Like, even if you had a voice warper, he had a generic voice warper thing, but that warped his specific voice. If you use that thing and you sound like Mickey Mouse, like, you don't sound the same. It's not like, "Hi," and you come out and it's like, "Hello, Sydney." You don't. That's not how reality works, right? So I just always like, what kind of voice? What's the kind of sophisticated voice technology thing do you have?
Well, I think it's funny because I think like in the next movie they actually sort of address that, because then they have the voice manipulators built into their mask, or they had them. They had devices that they used for that in the second one. Or sorry, the third one.
Oh, and it legit just sounds like just other people too, like just anyone you want it to sound like, which is crazy too.
They're taking liberties with the voice modulator that they have, and you're also right. Like, how would they even know what the previous one sounded like? It's funny again. So this this killer, this clumsy killer, he is chasing her through the house, and they both run in like different directions, and she's like running through a hallway, and out of nowhere, she's like, as she's entering a room, the killer just like plows into a couch and flies over it, and she's like, "Oh shit, okay, I gotta turn left," and like, and then runs the opposite way.
It's like Mr. Magoo with a Ghostface Killer mask. And you know what's crazy too? This is the second time this guy like stabs through a wooden wall in this movie. Like, Ghostface in this movie has incredible forearm strength.
Yeah, he's got power.
Yeah, because you got to think that's a front door. That's got to be almost like an 1.5 to 2 inch thick, like solid oak door, and this guy just jams a knife through it. Pretty crazy that you could do that, but he does, and it looks like Sydney kind of runs out the back of the house while Ghostface's knife is stuck in the door there, and she runs into her boyfriend, and he runs inside, and it looks like he comes limping in too, as only Dewey can, and he runs in the house, and he kicks down a door, so to speak, and sees Derek there, kind of grabbing his arm. He's been cut. Looks like he's had a bit of a run-in with Ghostface, and Dewey runs in there, and he doesn't see Ghostface at all, and now the cops are here on site, and they're kind of patching up Derek here, and just questioning everybody about what just happened.
Yeah, so it kind of like, it's making Derek look a little bit suspicious just because nobody saw him and Ghostface together. We know that the killers in the first movie were willing to hurt each other and take injuries just to make a plan, go ahead with a plan and like lie and stuff, right, to make themselves look like victims. So you can't really trust anybody here. Skipping to a few scenes later, now we see Gale Weathers and Dewey are talking with like a local sheriff, and he writes the names of our 3 victims on the chalkboard that we have so far, and we see that these names, or at least whether it's their surname or their first name, they all represent the name of someone that was killed in the first movie. And I don't know. I mean, it's not really relevant, but I guess the idea is that like somebody is trying to recreate the first one, which, is another kind of like, fourth wall joke. They're trying to recreate the original.
I thought it was strange that like maybe Dewey's there because, okay, I can see he's a police officer, so you're from like different police departments, but why is Gale there? A lady who wrote a tell-all book, okay, who is a news reporter, who goes around and her whole angle is she wants to get the inside scoop on this. And you're a police officer and you're like, let me invite the media in to look at our our documents and all our evidence we have collected and everything that's going on here. I'm going to let this blabbermouth in. This lady who wants nothing more than to just sell books and tell people everything.
Yeah. She doesn't even care about victims or anything.
I understand she's there and she's got some inside knowledge potentially too, and obviously she points them in that direction. But like, that doesn't seem smart.
I'd also like to point out that I think she's doing a horrible job at being a news reporter because we literally don't see her in front of a camera talking once, like maybe for a moment at the very beginning. But there is no more news reporting going on in this movie from her.
Yeah, it's like she's almost like walking around maybe documenting stuff in this. Maybe it's more like a documentary. It seems like. I don't really understand that either, too. You're right. She doesn't really do any reporting. She does go in front of some cameras that other people point on her, and she talks to the police chief and asks them questions. But other than that, yeah, she doesn't do much reporting.
I think other reporters are coming over to her, Debbie Salt and her croonies, people just dressed in suits. They just keep on following her around with microphones and notepads. So skipping ahead a little bit later, and now we are back in college. Sydney doesn't realize yet that Randy is dead, and she is on the computer. And out of nowhere, she is just getting these hate messages that basically says, "You're gonna die tonight," and just like hijacking her screen. And she checks with the student beside her about this, and he says, "Well, it's got to be coming from one of the system. It's got to be someone here," which I don't feel like that's much of a surprise at this point. We know that the killer is probably somewhere on the college. Like, obviously, he just killed Randy. So anyways, we find that out. And Sydney alerts her sharp-dressed policeman here, and they kind of just take off and just, I don't know where they're running to, but they just take off. Instead of, like, protecting her, because I think that's what you should do, you probably should stay put and be like, okay, if you think he's here, we're going to stay right here and guard you. But they actually just run off, and Sydney runs into this, like, back room where, out of nowhere, Cotton Weary is there. And he is, like, aggressively trying to convince her to go on the Diane Sawyer show and so that they can each get a payday and tell their story. And Sydney isn't really feeling it right now because, people are dying around her and it's only been a year since the tragedy. So she's not really into it.
She's also currently being threatened, like literally like 2 seconds ago.
Yes, just a moment ago.
Right? So she's also just not feeling it there too. And I thought that was kind of funny that you're right, that she's getting a threatening message. So her security, okay, these trained security guards are like, hey, let's just send you into some random room in this place and we're both going to just run away from you. Not even like one guy, like, you stay with her. I'm going to keep this guy on the line, so to speak, like keep him talking. And I'm going to tell the lady to shut this whole place down and lock all the doors so no one can get out. And we're going to have this person in here. We're going to have security and whatever. And we can arrest somebody or get to the bottom of this. At least have everybody's ID and fingerprints at that point or something, right? Because you'd have something. Yeah, they just leave. And Cotton there is just going hard on this one. It's so funny because it seems like it's a lot of money, but it's only $10,000 that they're going to get each, which is like, it's 10 grand, but that's not like a ton of money,
But, well, for someone like Cotton, who has been in jail for the last year, he might be, looking for a little bit of money. I can understand him wanting to do it. However, this is just not the time. Like, this is just, maybe wait a month. Let's see how this whole murder situation gets resolved first, right? And this obviously makes him look like a potential murderer now. He's got the Stephen Avery effect.
And I also thought it was weird too. They don't really explain why he's in town. Like, other than, like, I guess that Gale invited him.
Because Gale tricked him into thinking they were going to have an interview together. So and he just decided to, like, hang around because, well, he can just convince Sydney to go on Diane Sawyer with him and doesn't need Gale.
For sure, but it's like, why did he stay around again? You know what I mean? Because I would be like, oh, like, there's a Ghostface in town and he's murdering people left, right, and center. The safest place to be right now is not in this town. So maybe just leave for like a week or two until things blow over. Because it's only like 2 days in this movie that happened. So
that's why I said that he's kind of getting the Stephen Avery effect here because, he's already been accused of murder and exonerated once. And now he's hanging around where murders are going on. And now we're starting to wonder, maybe he is actually capable of murder.
He's a suspicious Aloysius.
Yeah. So he's got he literally has Sydney cornered. Like, his arms are around, like, not around her neck, but like braced against the wall so that she can't just walk away if she wants to. Don't know where these cops are, but they eventually come back in and they throw Cotton Weary up against the wall.
So, unfortunately, the police don't really have much on Cotton. I mean, they have him at the police station. They've interrogated him, but they really don't have anything on him other than he was kind of being a creep at the library. So, they have to let him go. And, they're just going to keep tabs on him and just keep the nose to the grindstone, so to speak, and keep their eyes peeled and look for this killer. Joel, the cameraman at this point, he's now freaked out. And he's like, I am just getting the heck out of here, guys. Like, I've got bad vibes about this. He's the only smart guy in this movie. It's like, finally, like, somebody, get the hell out of there, people.
And he's probably wondering what it is that he's even doing. He's not recording anything.
Yeah, what are you making? Maybe a couple $100 a day? Like, this is worth it? I don't think so. So Joel leaves town. Dewey and Gale are sitting there and they're talking like they're pissed off. They're like, what are we going to do? We got to find this guy. And they both think, like, why don't we just check the tapes? Because this guy seems like he's probably been snooping around every crime scene anyway. So maybe we can see somebody on tape or something on tape. We've got this person here, some sort of clue. So they decide to go to this college that Sydney goes to again. Like, it's just like, they're just like an open door policy, apparently. They're like, everybody who's associated with this.
Yeah, anybody can just walk in there.
Yeah, just have at it. Just use our stuff. It's no problem, no big deal.
Day or night.
Yeah, just come on in. Like, you're just a reporter. You can just come in. You guys are like 40. You can use our stuff. It's not suspicious at all or whatever. Like, they're just carte blanche to do what you want. They're all celebrities in this town, I guess.
I find it funny that they would do that. So they're in this like giant seminar classroom. Like, it's like the size of a theater. I find it funny that this is, they chose to go into the college, this university, this giant like theater room-esque place to watch this footage. And you would think that they were going to watch it on like a really big screen or something, but they just find like the nearest TV with a VCR hooked up to it that they can find. And like, why would they go into the university to do this? Like, surely they can find a safer place to watch this footage, like find a VCR.
This is also like the only technology you need is something you would have like at a local high school, and a teacher just had it on a lazy day. They're like, forget it. We're not teaching you math today. Just watch this video, South Park today.
Yeah, like this TV is what, like 30 inches? Like, and this is in front of a giant auditorium. Like, nobody at the, like, even halfway at the back, you wouldn't be able to see this thing.
It's a film school.
It is a film school, yeah. Yeah, at that too.
We use this crappy VCR. That's how we do our projects, guys. Yeah, that's what they're doing, though.
These two are watching the footage, and they don't even get, like, a minute into watching this footage before they just start, like, getting it on. Like, they just, like, get turned on by each other and start making out.
We hear the sexy Dewey and Courtney Cox twang guitar start up, and they start just making out.
So, like, they're just totally forgetting about everything that's going on. They're just having a breakout. They're having an afternoon delight.
Sky rockets in flight.
Yeah, while all this stuff's going on. And then out of nowhere, the footage like sort of changes. They like hear a noise, and they look up and they realize that the footage that they're watching wasn't shot by Gale's cameraman. This was actually likely shot by the killer, because we see Randy just about to die. It's right before Randy dies. So the killer was actually videotaping Randy walking around the park and stuff before he snatched him into the in the van like a kidnapper.
That's right. They realize this is not their footage, and they haven't put it on this VCR, I guess. Somehow someone else has. So they look up to the projection screen, and they see the Ghostface standing there. He, I guess, somehow has the projector on this VCR there. I don't understand that, but he does that. And this is another weird thing in this movie. I guess maybe you can explain this with two killers, but Dewey runs up to the projection room now. He sees no Ghostface Killer. He's looking down at Gale going, what's going on? Literally behind her, a ghost face pops up out of a table. Just behind a table like a puppet. And he just comes at her. And then she takes off down a hallway now.
So Ghostface chases Gale around these like sound rooms and stuff. And they're in this one recording room, and where Gale barricades herself in. She barricades the door. She slams like a shelf or something, and Ghostface can't get her. But she can see into the opposite room that is also soundproofed. So she sees Dewey walking around in there, and the killer attacks Dewey. There's nothing she can do, because no matter how much she yells, Dewey can't hear her. She wasn't able to warn him. And it appears as though Dewey is left for dead.
Yeah, Dewey just got stabbed pretty hard in the back there a couple times, and there's blood everywhere, so it does not look like it's a good time for Dewey right now. Courtney Cox kind of barricades herself into a room and tips over like a bookshelf, okay? And that just somehow like mildly inconveniences Ghostface. and he can't open the door, it seems like, for some reason. This guy can stab a knife through a solid door, but he can't push a door open with a half a bookshelf on it. That's like kind of this rickety thing from IKEA. So it doesn't matter. He goes out front, tries to throw this is like, remember that movie Tag, the first start of the movie where the guy throws the chair at the window and it doesn't break? That is exactly what happens here. He just launches the chair at this table like it's a failed WWE skit, just doesn't do anything. And he gets kind of upset, it seems like Ghostface does, and he gives up. That's about it, and just runs away.
So outside the university, Sydney is being escorted to a car with her police officers, as well as Nellie, and Derek is seeing them off. So Nellie and Sydney have gone with the police officers to, I guess, a safe house somewhere. And as soon as they leave, the fraternity snatches up Derek here because they know that he gave away his fraternity ring to Sydney. And he is in for a night of some very weird punishment. They carry him off down the street like he has nothing he can do. They basically they tie him up crucifix style to like this like sun ornament or something. Maybe it's like from the play. They're actually in the auditorium of where one of their plays are going to take place. So yeah, he's like tied up to a giant prop.
Yeah, he is tied up in his boxers here and there, like shoving a funnel down his pants and pouring alcohol down there and making him drink stuff. And I guess they're just getting him drunk and embarrassing him a little bit, which is all right, you know? Okay.
Well, that's how it works. So meanwhile, we go back to the car where Sydney and Nellie are in the back seat and the two cops are in the front, and they're stopped at a traffic light. And the cops are sort of joking with Sydney that, yeah, we're going to look after you, all right. And like just being like really facetious about like not taking this too seriously. And like, I don't know, it seems really insensitive to me. However, while both officers are peering into the back seat, Ghostface just like jumps up from like the outside of the driver's door and just stabs one of the officers in the neck a bunch. And as the other officer is getting out of the car, Ghostface like slides over the top and ninja kicks him in the face and slams that officer's head in the car a bunch of times. It's like these officers don't have guns. Like they're not even using them.
He goes like Patrick Swayze Roadhouse on him. Like he is ruthless. Slashes the guy in the throat. You're right. Does a baseball slide across, kicks the guy in the face somehow. It's pretty incredible, like an impressive maneuvering that he's doing here. And just like takes this guy's face and smashes it off the door. Ghostface is trying to get into the car now. He throws the cop off. He gets into the front driver's side of this car now. The cop jumps onto the window, and Ghostface now takes off down the road. And he is just driving like a crazy maniac. Well, obviously, because he's insane. And he's just hitting everything he can trying to get this cop off and smashes into like a truck. And a bunch of rebar flies out and just impales this dude right in the face. And that is it for this cop. He is done. We've come to like a crashing halt now. And Ghostface is out cold. And I guess the girls aren't because they wore their seatbelts, it seems like. They were smart in this whole thing.
Yeah, so they're in the back seat and they realize the only way that they can get out is to climb through like the damaged like separation gate that's in between the front and back of the cop car. They slowly climb out over Ghostface and they successfully get out. It takes a lot longer than it should, but they end up doing it. And they kind of walk back behind the car a little ways and they're going to leave. But then Sydney decides that she wants to go back and lift the mask of Ghostface here and see who it is. So she walks back to the car, and when she gets to the driver's side, she sees that Ghostface is gone already, just like that. In the last like 15 seconds, nothing else going on in the street around them. He just disappears. She's like, what? And she turns around, and Ghostface is now behind Nellie, whom he stabs to death. He's very sneaky, huh?
This guy is like a teleporter. This is very much the Jason Takes Manhattan kind of vibes. Like he is just like here one spot, now he's here over another spot. Like crazy amount of work here. And if it was two people, like you just, I feel like you really couldn't. You could potentially explain this. Not really. I don't. It'd be really hard to explain this. Like it'd just be stupid, you know.
So that happens. So Sydney is running back to the university. I'm not sure why and how that happens, but she's just running back to the university. And now Gale Weathers is running out from the university, and as she's running out, she's stopped by Cotton Weary, whose hands, he's full of blood now, and he's like, it's not what it looks like. I found Dewey, I'm trying to help him. But she runs away from him absolutely terrified. She's convinced that he is the killer now.
Did this guy not get arrested like a day ago? And he's snooping around the university again? What the hell is his problem?
I don't think he actually got arrested. I think they were just like, hey, you need to stay away from Sydney. But I don't know why he would be snooping around at all at this point. He doesn't go to this university.
You got to think this is probably the same day. Maybe the next day I think this happened. I feel like this was the same day, right? Because
I think it's the same day, yes. I think it was earlier in the day.
Yeah. So he had this whole run-in with Sydney. The security guys take him. They grab him. Whatever they do, they take him to the cop shop. The cops release him. He comes back to the university like 2 hours later. It's like he stopped off and grabbed McDonald's or Sonic or something and was like, I'm going, I'll come back, and I'll see you guys in a couple hours. And then found Dewey, allegedly. Gale freaks out now, and she runs to try to find a phone and runs into Debbie, and she's just like, the killer is Cotton. Like, we got to tell the cops.
Now we're back at the university. For whatever reason, Sydney has ran directly to the theater, like the theater portion of this university. And it's actually the whole stage and set for a play that she is the star in. Why did she go here? I don't understand. Of all the places you could run to, why did you run right back to the theater, like the performance area?
Right? Where the killer knows you're going to go. Why would you not go to the cops and be like, get me in a car, get me the hell out of this town as fast as you can, get me to the biggest major city you can, and get me in with a bunch of, like, cops? Like, she runs to the place where she's going to do a play.
Yeah. Hey, this is where I feel safe. I'm acting in this play. Maybe I can just, like, hide out. Maybe I can just hide out here. But then, out of nowhere, drops from the ceiling on this, like to her level. He's hoisted up by a bunch of ropes here, is Derek, her boyfriend, who, he's looking in pretty haggard shape right now. He's got a little bunch of cuts and stuff all over him. I don't know, it might be lipstick for all I know, too. He was just hazed, so it's hard to say what just happened to this guy. But he's there, and Sydney is trying to, like, rapidly, just frantically untie him from this stage prop that he's fastened to. And behind them is Ghostface, and he's like, hey, you don't want to do that. Are you sure you can trust your boyfriend still, Sydney? And as he says that, his voice modulator goes out, and we hear the voice of Mickey. And Ghostface slowly lifts the mask, and we see it's Mickey. And he is instantly trying to put doubt into Sydney by telling her that, I didn't work alone. Derek's my partner. We've both been doing this together. And Derek's like, no way, freaking out. Like, he's lying, Sid. He's lying. Like, don't trust him. Untie me. And she's like, she kind of hesitates and ends up actually not untying him. Which, like, at this point, I think I would untie him because, like, I know you don't know the truth, but, like, if these two are standing here having an argument and one of them is holding a gun, I think it's pretty safe to say that the one who's tied up is probably not in on this, because why? At this point, would you even...
No, you're right, but he's also, like, there's a lot of rope around this guy. Like, I don't think it's like, you're just like, you go and you just pull one thing and you're like, there it is. That's the whole knot right there. Like, I think it's going to take a second. I wouldn't really want to, like, turn my back to this guy and be like, here, let me just untie these elaborate knots that they've got this guy strung up with,
That's true. That's fair, because Sydney also doesn't know that he was just hazed. So this is all just, like, she don't know what the hell's going on, I guess.
I mean, to me, this is like, I'd be like, you just look like you got hazed for sure, man. Like, there's all kinds of crap on this dude. And he's all, like, covered in, I guess this is alcohol or something. Like, I don't know. I'd be like, yeah, you probably didn't do this. But I don't know, like, what do? You make a run to the nearest door and try to hit a pull station and, like, set off the fire alarm or something? That's about the only thing I think you could do in this. I would probably leave this guy to die. I think that's what I would do. I'd be a terrible girlfriend, just letting you know.
So while they're arguing, Derek and Mickey here, Derek threatens Mickey and says, I'm going to kill you. Once I get out of these ropes, I'm going to kill you. And Mickey's like, I don't think so, and shoots him dead.
That's right. And so Sydney's freaked out now, and she's going like, why are you doing it? Why are you doing this? Like, why are you trying to recreate Billy Loomis's murders? Like, he was a sick individual. And he goes, yeah, I know he's sick. He's like, but I'm sick and I want to get caught. She's kind of blown away. Like, what are you talking about here? And he's like saying how basically he's just going to do it. And he's going to admit that he did this in court. And he's got a whole defense plan that it's just the movies made him do it. That's his whole thing. Movies and violent media made him do this.
He plans on getting like popular senators and like politicians to back him up and pay for his attorneys and all this stuff. How he's not going to do any time because he's going to start a whole new movement where people assess movies more. And I don't know. He's basically trying to set a really weird trend. It makes no sense.
Yeah, why you would want to just because that is confusing. Like you would just want to tell people that you did this because of movies. Like, did you then it's like, did you really do it because of movies, or did you do it because you wanted to kill people? Maybe that's a question for later, but
I don't think there's going to be too many people in any kind of universe that would be like coming to his aid, be like, you know what? Have you seen this movie? You know, we need to give this guy a break. I know he killed all these people. All these people. But, you know, did you see the movies he was watching? You know, maybe we should go easy on him, you know?
I mean, what? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's a pretty flimsy plot here, but you're right. It doesn't matter because at this point, you know, they're sort of running around each other, and he's scaring her, and all of a sudden, Derek on his weird little star, he goes up into the air now, and Mickey starts laughing. He's like, "Oh, who do we have here? Who's coming on out?" And Gale Weathers comes out, and Sydney's kind of beside herself, going like, "Gale, like, please, like, don't tell me you're the killer, right?" But as this happens, another person walks out the door holding a gun, and it is Debbie Salt.
Debbie Salt.
That's right. The weird reporter lady who is Roseanne's sister in the show.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that, man. I've been wondering where I knew her from. Yes, she was Roseanne's sister.
That's stupid.
Yeah, so yeah, she reveals herself as one of the killers. So as soon as she walks out, Sydney sees her and she's like, "Mrs. Loomis?" And Gale Weathers is like, "What are you talking about? This is Debbie Salt. She's a reporter." And then Debbie Salt here reveals, she's like, "Oh, no. I am Mrs. Loomis. I am Billy Loomis's mother. The killer, Sydney's boyfriend from the first movie who revealed himself to be the killer. This is his mother."
Just a total Scooby-Doo reveal.
Yeah. Like, that was totally out of left field. And, like, you know, I think, like, watching this movie, seeing her, like, she is actually at the scene of every crime. However, she's a reporter, so she kind of has the same excuse as Gale Weathers. So you kind of, like, you can excuse it a little bit. But even, like, the first time I watched this, I did notice, I was like, this girl's weird. She might be in on it. But there was no indication whatsoever that she was going to be revealed as Billy Loomis's mother.
It's pretty wild. And it's also funny, too, because Gale is like, "I've seen pictures of you before." And they're just like, "Yeah, she lost 60 pounds and did a little bit of surgery or something like that." Like, that's all it was.
Yeah. She said she got a makeover, so.
Yeah, that's it. A makeover. That wasn't even surgery. It's just like, I cut my hair and I lost some weight. I went to Weight Watchers.
Yeah. I would think that, like, you would think that somebody would have recognized her. And she just happens to have not been in the same area as Sydney this whole time.
It's incredible, too, because in this movie, she is like she's in the same proximity as Sydney, like almost every time that we see Sydney on campus with reporters there and Gale and cops and everything. At no point has Sydney seen her up until now. This is just mind-blowing.
So her motive that she reveals here is she wants to get revenge on Sydney for killing her son, who tried to kill Sydney. So you got these people. Oh. It's crazy. So Billy Loomis kills Sydney's mother, and Sydney ends up killing Billy Loomis while she's under attack. So then, as revenge for Billy Loomis, Billy Loomis's mother goes and tries to kill Sydney. It's like this thing. It's just like back and forth, like these family members. Like, I'm going to revenge her for doing that. And then the next one's like, oh, well, now I've got to get revenge too. It's like, where does this end?
You know, this is like when you're kids and you have the baseball and you're trying to see like who's gonna bat first and stuff, and you guys put your hands on the baseball bat and your hands are going up higher and higher, and then you finally get to the top and it's just like, now we're just sliding 2 fingers out, and the other person, they're gonna put 2 fingers, I'm gonna put a hand on top of the thing. Like, you're just like, what is going on? This is nuts in this movie. Wild.
She also reveals that she found Mickey here, her helper, her sidekick killer. She found him on like a chat room, for crazy people. And so he was just like into it. And then he's like, oh yeah, and we've got the perfect motive. And she's like, I don't think so, Mickey. And then shoots him dead.
It's like the 90s too. So the guy was just like, they were on in the chat room like, ASL, you want to kill some people? And you know what's wild in this too? It's like, it's Sydney. It's funny because Sydney explains. She's like, so Billy got mad that his dad had an affair with my mom and you left. So he killed my mom and tried to kill me. But now you're mad that you left and Billy tried to kill me and then I killed him. So now you're trying to kill me.
I'd say, you know what? If you kill me, then my dad's going to go and get revenge for me and kill you. Well, eventually we're going to run out of elders in the family, right? Like, this can't go on forever.
No, you'd think so, but there's like 3 more movies where people just come out of the woodworks.
It's true. It's true. 5 more, really. 4 more movies after this, yeah.
Plus a TV series. I mean, that doesn't really have anything to do with this, but you know, it's like, it's just unending amount of people. This is, again, Kevin Williamson wrote I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I'm just finding the same similarities of just like, oh yeah, well, we're going to get my brother and my dad to come out here and kill you or something.
Now we're down to Sydney and Mrs. Loomis, Debbie Salt. We're down to these two. It's a big showdown. And through a little bit of a tussle and stuff, Sydney manages to run to like the semi-backstage area and flick a bunch of switches. Debbie Salt has accidentally like shot some machinery. So stuff is just happening. Like this stage, this theater stage is coming to life now. There's thunder, the thunderclaps are going. Looks like there's lightning, there's lights falling from the ceiling because Sydney found an axe, like a fireman's axe, and she is just chopping any rope that she can find. So is just falling from the ceiling, like, and stuff is just happening. And then like they're in this like medieval times like setup area, or maybe like Shakespearean type thing. So Debbie Salt here, she's just confused, trying to run away. She climbs up this like fake rock wall, and it all comes crashing down. And you think that she might be dead, but she's not, because those aren't obviously real stones. She's not crushed like it. She's in a theater, right?
It's like foam blocks or something, yeah. But also, you know, it's questioning. It's very questionable too. It's like, why did you just not just walk the other way and jump off the stage? Why are you trying to go into the set where everything is falling right now? Why not just step off the stage and be like, you're just an idiot, Sydney?
Sydney thinks that Debbie Salt, Mrs. Loomis, is dead, but she's not. She stands up and she's like fighting with Sydney over a knife. She's got Sydney down. But then out of nowhere comes Cotton Weary, and he picks up a gun, and Mrs. Loomis introduces herself to him. Not sure why, but she I guess she's got to explain why she's got Sydney here with a knife. So these two start bargaining with each other for a moment. Like they're kind of like circling each other. Cotton Weary's got the gun pulled on both of them, but mostly on Debbie just to make sure she doesn't kill Sydney here. And after they do like a few rotations, a few 360s circling around each other, Debbie Salt is basically trying to convince Cotton Weary that Sydney has done him so much wrong by falsely accusing him for her mother's kill that, you know, maybe if he goes along with her plan, she will make him famous and she will take him on the news and do an interview with Diane Sawyer. And Sydney's like, come on, Cotton, don't do this. And Cotton's like, well, Sydney, the Diane Sawyer interview is looking pretty good now, isn't it? And she's like, consider it done. And he shoots Debbie Salt, Mrs. Loomis. She's dead. Cotton Weary has saved the day.
Only because she agreed to go on Diane Sawyer.
Yes. She had to agree to go on Diane Sawyer. That's all this look. I think she should. Because after all this guy's been through, especially now, the least you can do is give him an interview with Diane Sawyer. I mean, that's all the guy wants. Just give him his interview.
And then you need to expose him and say that the only reason you're alive and on the show right now is because you agreed to, because while the killer had you at knife point to your throat, he stood there with a gun and was like, oh, I'm only going to shoot this lady and save the day here and be nice to you, and not work with this killer, okay, who's massacred a bunch of people over the last few days, because you're going to agree to do a Diane Sawyer interview with me.
I can hear Sydney saying it through her teeth on an interview, like, I'm only here because he would have left me for dead. And it's a $10,000 payday for him. He really wants this interview.
He's hard up for $10,000. Like, how poor is this guy? Like, what is going on in this man's life that he needs this 10 grand? Like, does he owe money to the loan sharks or the mafia or something?
Well, he probably has no money. I mean, if they consider if you don't work for a year and then you're just out on the street, it's probably hard for him to get a job too, He probably doesn't have, it's probably people not right, especially the way he's been acting. People aren't running up to him, hey, calling him for a job, right? It's probably hard if you've been accused of murder, even if you get exonerated. It's probably still, there's people that have their opinions regardless of whether you're exonerated or not, right? So maybe he is just that hard up. He needs that interview with Diane Sawyer.
You're right. OJ really got a bad rap once he was found acquitted of murder. So yeah, I could totally see. Maybe he was just afraid of that. Cotton was getting the OJ treatment.
But he was never actually prosecuted, right? He was acquitted. See, Cotton Weary, he actually went to jail for it.
So I'm saying, I think Cotton should have wrote a book called If I Did It. Oh, man. Okay, I don't want to make jokes about OJ, but terrible guy,
Oh, he's awful.
Yeah, allegedly. We're pretty sure.
So to cap this off, these guys each shoot. They basically take turns shooting each of the killers in the head. Because in the first movie, Randy says they always come back, and one of them yells. They come I'm alive, and then they get shot in the head. Mickey jumped up alive, and Gale and Sydney both just blew him away. They probably shot him 16 times with the handguns, and then Sydney walks over to the body of Debbie Salt and just shoots her in the head because she's just making sure. I don't want to be scared. No, I don't want to be startled anymore this evening. This is over now.
Yeah, we find out Dewey is alive right now too, as well, looks like. And Sydney kind of walks out of the school, and it's morning here, and there's some reporters, and some sort of Collective Soul kind of song starts playing, and we pan out, and that's the movie. What are your thoughts, Tim?
This movie isn't even that bad. It's just it's not anywhere near as close to how surprising and just new and fresh the first one felt like. This one really does. I know you said that the director or the writer had this movie in the works for a while, but this doesn't seem like nearly as well of a fleshed out script as what the first one was. There's really no guessing the end. I don't think anybody would have expected anyone in Billy Loomis's family to just show up as a killer. I know I certainly, even way back in the day when I watched this movie for the first time, I was like, what? Oh, okay. So this girl's just been lying about who she was this whole movie and nobody knew? Nobody? All these reporters around? She has reporters following her around and introducing herself wide open, not even hiding her face at all. But, so I don't know. There's a lot of things. I guess when I say it's not that bad, basically what I'm saying is that I still really enjoy this movie.
No, yeah, I know what you're saying. As far as the Scream movies go, I think this isn't one of the worst sequels out there. The first movie I think is really great. If it stood on its own, just if there was no other movies made and it was just in a vacuum, I think it would be really awesome. But I would kind of miss that world and those characters, and I'd want these extra movies too. But when we do have these movies, we got so far away from stuff and the characters, it was cousins and second cousins, and like we said, people are just coming out of the woodworks in some of these movies as far as why they're aggrieved at Sydney or whatever it is that's going on in this. It got really ridiculous. This one, it wasn't as bad. It was still kind of some of the same characters, and there was still some of that same familiarity, even though it's a different location and whatever in the movie, or it's supposed to be, even though it all looks the same to me. And it does have some of the same feel, and the beats and all that stuff is kind of the same. They give you that sort of warm comfort in this movie, but it's not the same. It's definitely an inferior product. And there is a lot of things that are questionable in this movie too. Like, yeah, like just like how much the killer, like, I guess you could have two people explain some of this stuff, but why is it Debbie Saltman, and like why we never heard of her, and then how does Sydney know who she is? But again, she never saw her in any of the scuffle around here. But then like it just like Gale is a reporter, and she went to the police with all this stuff. She's working with the police. At no point did she even look up an article by this lady to see, like, did she even write anything under the pseudonym Debbie Saltman, right?
Yeah, no, it's weird. So like, I don't even understand if she was actually a reporter or she was just like playing pretend. Like, did she just, because like over the past year, she just turned into a news reporter and lost 60 pounds and I got a makeover and was like, okay, I'm committed to this for a year.
Yeah, how did that all work? You're right. Like, did she find out after the whole first Scream movie happened? She found out Billy Loomis did, and maybe sent her off in a weird dark path, and then after that point, she started doing stuff. I could see maybe in those 2 years, but yeah, to lay in wait for something to be like, oh, these people ruined my marriage, and now I'm gonna wait till the daughter grows up and give her a hard time. Like, that'd be a little too much.
And why? Like, if her motive is just revenge, why did she need to kill all her friends?
Yeah, right. Why not just murder Sydney? Why did you have to do this whole elaborate thing and pay an homage to Stu and your son Billy?
All of the victims share the same name as the victims from the first movie, or at least most of them. Like, how did you set that up? Do you just wait for her to like go to college and like, okay, good, she's finally friends with a Brian. Good, okay. Now I just need a Steve.
It's like friend circle bingo or something. Yeah, she has the right amount of friends. She needs we've got a Randy. Randy's still here. We need a Maureen. We need a Phil.
Like, God, I hope she joins a sorority group. There'll be so many more friends, so many more names that I can match up.
And you had to find two people named Phil and Maureen, somehow that they were dating each other and they knew each other. And then you set it up, again, like we're talking about with this whole opening weekend thing, that they were going to go there. And then you just bought a bunch of costumes to give to people.
I hope that somebody named Phil and Maureen go to this theater tonight. They've got
these movies that Kevin Williamson has written, like, I like some of these things because they're fun teen horror movies and stuff. But like the when he has to stretch it to sequels now, where they're going with this, again, like just delaying killing people, like in I Know What You Did Last Summer, and writing people letters, and now you're planning vacations, these murder mystery vacations with your son and stuff. Like, it's crazy.
He's really into like the communications, like the horror side of communications, like writing notes and like scary phone calls, and I don't know. There's probably other ones too that we could think if we really want to dig deeper into Kevin Williamson. But yeah, he's really all about those communications, the scary phone calls and scary letters, scary notes.
Yeah, Tim, though, but I think, yeah, like you said, out of all the Scream movies, it's not bad. It's a pretty decent one. Like I said, every so often, I'll go through all these movies and just watch them and just have like a little Scream marathon, just because it's something to do. And I think at Halloween, probably not a bad one to watch. You don't have to get too far in the deep cuts. There is a lot of stuff that happens in this. The body counts up a bit. And it's a slight departure from the first movie. Again, like, I think the first movie is a classic. I think it's well written. It's smart.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's really good. Yeah. So, but this is a decent follow up to that too. And if you're looking for something to watch this year, when we get spooky, it's not a bad pick.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about Scream 2.
Yeah, okay, that's not a bad place to leave it. Maybe we'll leave it with our friend, Matthew Lillard.
Yeah, you're gonna love this one. It's a Scream, baby.